Hi there. Before we get started with part 4, Info3Quarter asks, what if we manipulated the eyeballs or the eyelashes? Do we have to create blend shapes for those too and import them separately into Unreal? If you're doing different eye shapes, then you'll need to create blend shapes for each of the meshes related to the eye. You don't have to export them separately, just export them all in one big FBX file. If you're trying to let the player move and scale the eyes, then it's better to move and scale the joints instead of creating blend shapes. I used blend shapes for my system and ended up with these kinds of problems. Since the joint pivot stays the same, when the eyes begin to rotate, it will no longer match the new pivot of the eye meshes. I haven't properly implemented the solution in my own system, but here is a quick overview of one way to do this. First, make a control rig. Add a control that constrains all the joints related to the left eye, and do the same for the right eye. In the animation blueprint, add your control rig and feed it an offset vector. Then you can drive the offset through the mouse inputs. Here I changed the offset manually since I haven't had the chance to implement it yet. I will be updating the tutorial files on my Patreon to include this example. I will not be covering this in this tutorial series. However, after taking a second look at my own system, I plan to eventually make a second tutorial series that builds on top of this one. Just know that this could take a while. In the meantime, I am more than happy to answer any of your questions in the comment section or on Discord. Rather than editing the preset's existing materials, I prefer to make copies and edit those instead. I should have done the same with the preset MetaHuman blueprint in hindsight. You can find the first material by opening your head mesh and clicking on the magnifying glass of the first material slot. This is the top material instance. If you open it and scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that it has a parent material, which is also a material instance. Opening this one will again reveal another parent material. This is the material itself. Let's make a copy of it. And let's copy the two material instances as well. The two new material instances need to have their parent material updated to point at our new copies. We also update our first material slot on the mesh to point at the new top material instance, which in this case I've called m_head_inst2. Open the material instance and click the magnifying glass on the base color main. Then right-click Asset Actions and export. Open the exported texture in your image editing software. I personally work in Photoshop. Make a new layer and paint the nose red. And make the mouth green in another layer. Add a black layer underneath those layers so we end up with a black background with a red nose and a green mouth. Export this texture into Unreal. Now we want to add some logic in the material that shows the correct highlight according to which face area the mouse is hovering over. Open the copy of the head material, add a texture sample node, and select our new imported mask texture. If you hold down the letter I and left click, you will create an if node. Hold 1 on your keyboard and left click to create a constant and connect it to the B input. Add a new scalar parameter called highlight ID and connect it to the A input. Connect the red channel of the texture to A equals B. So if the highlight ID is equal to 0, we want to show the nose highlight. Make a copy of the if node and connect its output to the remaining two inputs of the first if node. Make another constant and connect it to B. A is larger than B and A is less than B. Connect the green channel to A equals B. Hold M and left click to create a multiply node. Connect the first if node to A. And for B, we're gonna need a new parameter called highlight intensity. And we multiply again by a vector parameter called highlight tint. I'm gonna pick blue as the color for my highlight. Just make sure it's not black or it won't show up at all. Finally, connect to the emissive color input of the material. Let's not forget to connect highlight ID to the A input of the second if node. Add a new function in your character creator blueprint and call it highlight update. Add the function in your tick event like so. Next, we need to relocate some code from our start interact function. Select these nodes and press Ctrl X to cut and paste them in the highlight update function. Get the character face mesh and drag out a new node called Set Scalar Parameter Value on Materials. For parameter name, write highlight ID and keep the value at 0 since we're going to connect this to the nose selection. Copy this for the mouth selection and set the value to 1. Back in the start interact function, get the current manipulation and check that the string is not empty. If the string is empty, it means the mouse is not hovering over a valid face area and should therefore start rotating the camera. If you enter play mode, you should see the correct face area light up when your mouse is hovering over it. Two problems right now. When you manipulate the face, the highlight changes when your mouse hovers over a new face area. The highlight ID should stay locked as soon as we've picked a face area to edit. The other problem is that the highlight does not disappear when the mouse does not hover over any face part. So let's fix these issues. In the highlight update function, let's make sure that is manipulating is false. This will lock the highlight ID as long as we manipulate the face. Open the head material and add a new scalar parameter called highlight on. Add a new if node and connect it like so. So if highlight on is set to 1, the material will function as before, but if it is set to 0, it will just return a black value. Since we're using the emissive channel, a black value will make the highlight disappear. In the highlight update, we then set the highlight on variable to 0 when nothing is selected, and we set it to 1 when either the nose or mouth area is selected. That seems to do the trick. For my own system, I ended up using 3 textures, each with 4 channels for a total of 12 face areas. Thanks to everyone asking questions in the comments and on Discord. This is my first time doing step-by-step tutorials, and I'm sure I'm gonna forget to explain certain things along the way. So keep asking and I'll do my best to fill in the gaps. That's it. See you in part 5. Then it's better to